So, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, and thanks for coming. I know you're busy, students, seniors, it's entrepreneurship, so I appreciate it. Just to reflect on what Joe said, I'm actually not going to talk about Israel. I'm here to do something. I thought about something that we thought about something that will add more pragmatic value. So the culture and innovation and the whole Israel case study, which happened, like we didn't plan this in Israel. It's a very interesting case study for what's going on in the world today, especially if you're interested in ecosystems, which is a word that gets thrown around a lot. But it's actually a field that is much deeper than the cliche word. But that's not for today. So I thought, why not do something that is more practical? So Silo is an Israeli startup that I'm a part of. What I want to do is not come and give you the 5-minute pitch and get you to download the app, because you'll do it anyhow, even without the pitch at the end of this talk. What I want to do is take you to the behind the scenes and tell you how we started, how we failed, why, what happened, what did we do later, where are we today, because we're not, the journey is not done yet. So this is a behind the scene journey for a company that is still in the making in a way, which is far more interesting. And then I want to conclude with the top 10 or 12 entrepreneurial lessons from our journey. So that's what I want to do. We have like 1 hour, right? And then a little bit of Q&A. If you have any questions, please don't wait till the end. Go this and just ask, okay? Cool. So you're entrepreneurship students, so I thought maybe devote 2 minutes before I start and give you a little bit of an example just to get us into the mood. So who wants to tell me what's the name of this person?
He's a dreamer.
He's a dreamer, that's right. What's he dreaming about?
A beautiful environment.
That's right, but where is he at?
He sees opportunity.
Sees opportunity. What's the environment I don't know how much you can see from the side over there. What's the environment he's in right now?
It looks like it's what he's looking at.
Looks like a desert.
A desert, that's right. Now, this is, you could claim an historical figure, maybe not, but he's a mythical figure, that's for sure. So what's the name of this epic historical entrepreneur? Herzl, no, but appreciate the fact you know who that is. No, go way back. This could have been Herzl. Herzl is a perfect example for an entrepreneur that failed all the way to success and didn't live to see the success. But what's the name of this mythical entrepreneur? Forget the suit. He didn't wear the suit. Moses, that's right. Because who crossed the desert on the way to the promised land? Moses. How many people here remember a little bit of the story of Exodus? You don't need to know the whole story. So I want to take 2 minutes to show you, here's an example of an entrepreneur you never thought of as an entrepreneur. So Moses didn't dream to free his people. He didn't walk around saying, my vision is to see blah, 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 and my mission is to take the Israel. No. He grew up with Pharaoh in the palace. He was upper class Egypt. But everybody else knew he's not Egyptian, he was adopted, he's that Hebrew slave they found on the Nile in the cave, whatever. So in the field of entrepreneurship, which is way beyond just startups, you really need to know who you are. I don't know if that's something that is part of the curriculum or something you got from outside, but this is really something imperative. A lot of people try to be something that they're not, just because they want something written on their LinkedIn, or they want to do something that is cool in today's culture, but it's not who they are. It's why a lot of them fail. That's number one. Number two, many people forget that part. Moses knew the desert before the Exodus, so he spent time doing market research. Not just testing the sand and learning the molecular level and collecting data. He went and lived in the desert as a Bedouin. Hung up with the Bedouins, with Jethro, married his daughter for a few years. So I guess it really helped him later on when he had to lead like 400,000 people over there. So knowing your market is important. I don't need to tell you most of the entrepreneurs, they actually built businesses in markets they never tested. So I want to start a business in the field of, restaurants, but I never owned a restaurant. I never worked in a restaurant. I only ate at restaurants. So you need to know your market. He knew the market. Now, this is a part that is really important in today's day and age. Giving Pharaoh the finger is very easy. Let me tell you how that works. You graduate, you go to work in a company. A year and a half later, you figure out you don't like the company, you don't like the product, you don't like their boss, you don't like the culture in the office. So you come to your boss and you say, that's not who I am. I don't like how things work out here. I'm not making any impact. I quit. And you're a hero for 48 hours. That's exactly the amount of time you feel like a hero. And then comes the oh shit moment as an employee. Now, for a lot of engineers and business people, you say, you know, we've been working on this idea and our company doesn't want to do anything. You know what? We're going to quit and we're going to do this ourselves. That's the startup. So giving Pharaoh the finger is easy. Even stepping into the desert is easy. If you look at the map, the part between where Cairo is and the Red Sea, that's not a lot of land. So the first 2 days, you're strong and dandy. You ate, you drank, you're optimistic. And then you get to the Red Sea. And sometimes you get lucky. Like you raise that stick and it splits into two. Here's how it works for businesses, especially startups. We launched the beta version of our app and it just went viral. Cool. Does it mean that you were really, on your way, or did you just have a little bit of luck? Are you planning on becoming viral, randomly and, just having luck as a strategy? Because that's not how it works. Because after the Red Sea comes 40 years of desert. So I'll go short, and the desert, the market, no shade, no water, hot during the day, cold during the night, just like any market. The market is not about you, the market is about the market, and you need to understand that, the desert is going to change you, you're not going to change the desert. And you don't want to survive in the desert, you want to cross it and get to the promised land. So I'll go short, but as leaders, at the end of the day, and it doesn't matter if you have 3 employees, or if you're a freelancer, or you're already employing 100 people, at the end of the day, if you're the decision maker, that's a very lonely journey. A very lonely journey. By the way, he never got into the promised land, but the promised land is not the Garden of Eden. When you get to where you want it to get, at the end of the day, it's not the Garden of Eden. It's the promised land, but it's a real place with real life problems. So there's no such thing as the end fairy tale over. So, and getting there may take longer than you think. So you need to be very realistic. What are we trying to build here so we don't get disappointed when we get to something which is really what we wanted? Many people build startups because they're looking to make an exit, which is in a way avoiding that promised land. What you want to do is build a business that you want to do for the rest of your life. So what do you want to do in that real place that makes it your promised land? So that's something that is very related to personal development and coaching, but it's very true for entrepreneurs. So why do it? Up front looks like a lot of pain. So my take on this is this, and maybe that's one of the top lessons that I'm going to get to at the end, but when you find something that is worth winning for, meaning I want to build my career with this and not other things that on paper could be better, but this is what I want. So that's something that is worth winning for. You also find something that is worth losing for, meaning even if shit will hit the fan, I'm still very proud of what we wanted to do here. It's about, making the world better or bringing a new, a new message to our market or our community. It's something that is way beyond just the business aspect. So even if it doesn't work, it was worth the journey. And when you find something that is worth winning for and something that is worth losing for, you find something that is worth living for. And that will help you be more persistent. That will help you be more, as a better leader, because you really are about what you do. It's not just, I want to build a business because I want to be my own boss. It's way deeper than that. And if you really look at the successful entrepreneurs, they had some scratch or they had a certain bug, and building the company was the way to execute their dream. It's not that they wanted to build a company. building the company is a means to an end. So that's my take on it. But what I really want to do is take you through our journey. So I want to tell you who I am, real short. I want to tell you about who are we, what's Silo all about, real short. This is the punchline. I want to tell you our story and then the lessons from our story. Cool? All right. So really short about who I am. My name is Assaf Luxembourg. I am from Israel. I'm 34 years old. And my passion in life, my scratch in a way, was to promote my country, to connect people to my country and show people the real face of my country and the future of my people. But you could say that's community involvement, and you can call that patriotism. So I grew up in Israel, and up until the age of 22, I was actually a musician. By the age of 22, I realized I want to do this for a living. So I thought about a profession. I did not want to be an entrepreneur. I thought of a profession that will help me do my passion. Which people get paid to represent their countries officially? Politicians. I came to learn they represent themselves. And I know tomorrow is a big day. But who really gets paid to represent their countries? And they're sent by their countries to be, to represent their countries overseas. Ambassadors. And that's what I wanted to be, Assaf. If you're all about this, you should go and be an ambassador. So I went to study the right things in the right university. I studied political science and economics. So I'm an economist by profession. And I went to work for organizations that mattered to me. And I spent my 20s positioning myself in the best way to go and sign up cadets course in the government to be an ambassador. So I was the man with a plan. The book Startup Nation comes out in 2008, the book that Joe mentioned. And suddenly, as an economist working for the government, I started getting a lot of requests to come and meet groups who came to Israel to do business, or MBA students, or entrepreneurship students, or a lot of groups of business people from all over the world, investors. So they gave me an opportunity to come and tell people the secrets behind Startup Nation and how to do business in Israel. What do you say? Is this an opportunity for someone who wants to be an ambassador? Getting the speaking experience, meeting people from all over the world? Of course! Which is why I said, sure, I'll come. I'll do it. And they gave me my chance. And I said, when I'm going to enlist for cadets course to be an ambassador, I'm going to have more experience than my instructors. I'm going to run this with a tractor. I'm going to own this. And as you see, I am not. So my plan failed. At the age of 29, I have a huge career life crisis. I understand I'm married +1. I'm not going to be an ambassador. I just can't start from scratch. I need to move on. And I lost my destiny in my career. So I learned the hard way that there are times, this is very related to entrepreneurship, there are times in our lives when we plan, the big boss laughs, and then we cry. It's going to happen to each and every one of you. Personally, in your businesses, both of them, squared, it's going to happen. So I was a piece of wreck when I was 29 and a half. So that's why I cried. Why did the big boss laugh? Because this whole thing, which was supposed to be a mean towards an end, became the end. And that's how I started my business. So I'll get to Silo in a minute, but I'm a part of Silo, but I have my own business, which is my umbrella, under which I do a lot of things. I do business development consulting. I do a lot of ambassadorship work. I turned the idea of being an ambassador for your country and built a business around it. I built a personal brand where I'm coming from. So I still meet a lot of groups from all over the world. That's how I met Joe. I do biz dev, marketing, storytelling, pitch consulting for a lot of companies. I work with a lot of business faculties and other universities. Maybe you know some of the logos here. I was a CEO of a startup for 2 years. Not what I planned to be, but I gained a certain expertise in my niche, and friends of mine who built a startup that was related to my industry understood that I could be very valuable, so I was a CEO of a startup for 2 years. I work with startups directly and indirectly, like accelerators like Techstars, and I'm a part of an Israeli startup called Silo. That's my other business. We don't have time for that. Yes, this happened too. I won the Creator Awards. Yeah, okay. So I started my own business, independent consultant speaker. Under this umbrella, I led a startup for 2 years. I worked with a lot of companies, so I do that. I joined Silo in 2007. And the main thing that I wanted to say with sharing with you my journey is I learned the hard way separating between the what and the how and the why. Anybody here does not know who Simon Sinek is? You know the 3 circles of why, what, and how? Familiar? Cool. So when you separate the what and the how from the why, and you focus on your real why, then good things start to happen. At least from my experience, I realized being an ambassador was not my why. It was just a how. The real passion was to show the people the real faces of my country. That was the why. And if being an ambassador is not going to work, I'll find another how to exercise that why. So when you focus on your why, you actually allow the what and the how to change because they don't matter. They're not who you are. An ambassador, a banker, an entrepreneur, it doesn't matter. That's a what and how. And when you focus on your why and you let the what and how change, that's where innovation comes from because you let them change. That's the constant in the equation. These are just variables. The market will decide how they work, not you. That was the main lesson from my story. And this brings me to Silo. So 5 minutes to what Silo is, and then just so you understand the context, and then I'll take you through our journey, and then the lessons, which is what you came here for. Okay? Cool. So what is Silo? I want to talk about networking, which is also very important. So probably if you're entrepreneurship students, you already know that networking is not about collecting business cards, and it's not about sending happy birthdays or having your mail chip, built right, and it's not about going to a lot of events, and it's definitely not about who do you know. It's about who knows you, right? Sounds like a very nice cliche, but it actually works in real life because when you actually add value to others and you are a smart giver and not just a taker, then you make people want to help you succeed too. And that's what networking is all about. Do you know the Give and Take, the book? Super interesting book for you if you're an entrepreneurship student by Adam Grant. He's a very known, he has the TED Talk about it, so you can watch the TED Talk. How to be a smart giver. Why are smart givers winning in the long term? That's an effective tool for any entrepreneur. So also to ask for help when needed, not just be a giver and then walk away. That's how it worked for cowboys in California 200 years ago. That's what works for entrepreneurs today. It's just being immersed in your business community. So it's about helping others and making them want to help you in return. So here's the problem. Building a network, an effective network, is an investment. You all know that, right? Time, attention, effort. And it's never the most urgent thing to do. Going for that meetup tomorrow night, which is part of Startup Week, well, I have a test on Thursday. So it's never the most important thing to do. But then you can't neglect it, because then when you need it, it will not be there for you. Kind of like your plants in the porch. It's never the most important thing to do to water them in the morning when you're in a rush, but if you don't water them, they will not be green when you'll need a nice porch. Now here's a way to understand it in the business world, not just as students. Because you're busy as students, but she's too. And her name is Michelle. And Michelle is a professional in a large corporation, not an entrepreneur. She's corporate America. She has no time for events or meetups or conferences. She has a ton of work to do. She has employees to take care of. 2 of them quit yesterday. She has a boss that's putting a lot of pressure on her. And she's a full stack mom. Networking is not the first thing on her mind. And she has 99 plus unread connection requests on LinkedIn because she has no time for it. But, layoffs are around the corner. And it's not because she's not good as a manager and as a department leader. It's just the organization is changing. The world of work is rapidly changing, and we're going to shut down the department. And, we wanted to really keep you in our organization, but we have nothing to do with your amazing skills now. So, we haven't decided what's going to be with the department yet. And what she does exactly when she hears that is, she's thinking about the world out there, Nobody's waiting outside with her 15-year experience. It's hard. So here's what she does. She starts networking when she needs the network. Not when she didn't need it. Now she really needs to milk the value out of it. So she goes to LinkedIn, Facebook, and she starts connecting with people and sending emails around, and they go like this. Hi, how are you? We haven't spoken for 2 years. Yes, because you'd never answered my messages. I am looking for my next adventure, or I'm looking for my next my next adventure, or whatever. If you hear of anybody who's looking for anybody like me, or blah, 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 I'd be happy to know. Now, you didn't answer my messages for 2 years. I wanted to meet with you because I needed your help. I mean, we studied together 3 years ago in FSU. But now when you come to me like this, you're a liability. I'm busy, just like you were in the past 2 years. That's the way it doesn't work. So it's too late. And that's the problem with networking. So we want to see Michelle happy, of course, and I'm using slides for our pitch, but this is not a pitch. So if you only had time to do it while working in an effective way, which doesn't consume a lot of time, and it's not the social media noise, and it's also intimate, because she really wants to help, but there's some stuff is not for LinkedIn and Facebook. Some stuff is more intimate. Q&A, AMA, requests, connections. Not a lot of people go to LinkedIn or Facebook and say, hi, I'm a co-founder of a startup, I'm the CEO, and I just had a huge fight with my CFO, what do you do? It's not for the public square. So if there was only that, she would have used it all the time. And then she could have done networking right. So we do that, as you probably guessed it. So we have an easy-to-use, mobile-first, time-saving, noise-free, practical, tactical, effective platform to do networking the right way, so far with a marketing language. So it's an app and an online platform. It's a place where you can meet your peers. It's a place where you can discover insider opportunities, because when you go intimate, then these things pop up. It's built on trust. I won't take you through the product, but it's a place that is built in a way that drags you to help others, and by that, help yourself. Think of an intimate LinkedIn for people that are relevant to you, not just the entire world. So, of course, it's a good place to hire, because her boss probably came and in an intimate way said, listen, we're looking to hire someone, or whatever. So you get the point. No, I won't run a demo. You can check it out later on. But let's get to the business part of it. This is a mobile-first platform where we make people build effective and intimate communities that are relevant for them. So there's no subscription, and we don't run ads, because we are committed to the value prop that we want to bring. So how do we make money? So it turned out that we can solve our customers and our consumers another problem. So we bring the product that helps them network efficiently. There's another thing that we can help. There's another pain that we can ease. Because we understood that a lot of executives on our platform are looking for talents, or they are talents and they're looking for their next opportunity. And for employers, they are willing to pay if we save them the hassle to find talents. So what we did is we separated our customers from our consumers. Is that something you're familiar with? I'll take a second just to explain that. You all know Facebook, right? Are you customers of Facebook as people who use Facebook? Are you customers of Facebook? No, you're consumers of Facebook. Who are the customers of Facebook? Advertisers. What's Facebook's product to its customers? What do they sell the customers? You. No, the customers don't care about social networks. They want your data, right? They want to advertise diapers to fresh moms in a specific geographical location and in a specific time. That's what Facebook allows them to do. How? They have this thing called the social network, which allows them to gather a lot of data on a lot of users. But it's a separation between customers and consumers. You don't pay for Facebook. You're consumers, not customers. Same logic, which is not something we invented, of course. It's pretty common around. So silo has another name called kernel, which talks to our customers, not our consumers. And what we do there is we help our customers, which are employers in Silicon Valley, find talents, mostly tech and engineer related. And that's what we do. And it works, so I'll explain more of that in a second. But as of now, imagine that there's a building, right, that has one entry called silo, and people come in the building for a certain purpose. They're consumers. There's another entry called kernel, and other people called customers, they come in for another purpose. Now, we don't sell our users to our customers. It's not the Facebook kind of way. So in Facebook, like, you get the product for free, but you're kind of playing against the house because they sell your data to advertisers. That's the deal. That's the long text that you saw. You skip, you pressed I agree, and so when you signed up. So it's that. We do it a little bit differently. We actually represent dozens of engineers as talents to employers. Here's the problem we solved. When you're Facebook or LinkedIn or Google or Microsoft, and you sit in Silicon Valley, and you need to hire someone, you want the best talents. But finding that talent, finding that knee in the haystack is a lot of hassle. So it takes a lot of time, a lot of effort, a lot of money, because you're paying people to do that work. But if I go south of Silicon Valley, there's a town called Los Angeles, and they have Hollywood. And in Hollywood, it works differently. In Hollywood, if you're a talent, you find an agent, or an agent finds you. If you're the next Scarlett Johansson or Tom Cruise or whatever, they'll find you. They'll sign you on a contract, and they'll go to the big studios and tell them, what are your next movies? Are you looking for actresses or actors of these kinds? You have to meet the talent I just signed up. So they sell the talent to the studios, not when they need to hire a lot of actors for the movie. They don't come and say, what people do you need? We'll go get them for you. No, they sell talents. Sometimes they sell talents before the movie was even written. So there are a lot of aspects to that, but it's not that common in tech. So we bring that to tech. We represent talents. We represent engineers as talents to employers, like these guys, which for them, if we find them the right talent, we save them a lot of hassle and time. Sometimes we help them find a talent before they fired Michelle and they think about bringing the new guy. That's where intimacy comes in. We started in Silicon Valley because our CEO sits in Silicon Valley. It'll come up in the story. And only for technical talents, because that's what was easy for us to start with, but we can go far beyond it. But it's the whole idea of coming from the talent approach, not from the employer approach. And that brought us to initial revenues. Today we break even and a little bit beyond. So that's a little bit about where we are right now. So that's a little bit of the numbers, how many people use our platform and companies on the platform. A lot of people who work there are users. Some of them are also customers. So you got the point. So we're also changing today. So we're churning our product. We're turning it into kind of like a digital meetup. So we want to introduce more content. It's not going to be a place where you post content to promote yourself. It's not LinkedIn, but it is a place where you want more professional talk. So we're turning it into a community management platform, which opens a lot of frontiers to us, like webinars. When you're in intimate communities, those webinars really matter. Introductions that are built in the platform, because if they're introductions that matter to you professionally, and not just people who know people you know, and they, you're recommended to connect to them, then it matters. News in their industry. So we took what we have today, and now we're building it into something that allows community members get more value, and community managers run their communities in a better way. That's a little bit about who we are, vision, mission. That's a lot of marketing language, so I'm going to skip that. That's Silo. Is that understood? Because I went a little bit fast. Cool, because you're sharp and you get it really fast. Okay, let's talk about our story, because this is the real punchline of the talk, the story and the lessons from our story. So I want to introduce you to Moshe, or Moshik. He's the founder and CEO. He was born in Israel in 1966. So he's not 22 anymore, as you can understand. There's a really known scientific institute in Israel called the Weizmann Institute, which is kind of like an MIT, very known around the world. And his mom worked there back then in the 70s when he was a kid. And he taught himself how to code, which in the 70s was a little bit different than today. So he played around with some of their gear. And when he was 15, he hacked and crashed their entire computer system, which was big rooms with a lot of big equipment, like this entire building had equipment that only knew how to do 1 + 1 or something like that. And punch cards, and they can tell you all about it if they remember. So he did that when he was 15 years old, and everything went boom. What was the result? Was his mom happy? No. Was the institution happy? So what did they do? Did they fire his mom for letting him play with the gear? No. You know what they did? They hired him, of course. So he started working there when he was 16. Imagine working for MIT when you're 16. He went to the army. In Israel, there was a mandatory service. He went to a computer army, which is today very known. Back then, it was pretty new. So just so you understand, in the 80s, he was in charge of implementing PCs into the IDF, the Israeli army. So remember, big white screens, big computers, PCs. So how do we bring PCs into an army? That was a big project, and he was a part of that. Finished his service and went to work for Microsoft. He did sales for Microsoft. So started with sales experience. And he left and started his first company when he was 27 years old. What was the motivation to quit Microsoft and start his own venture? It's always easy. Here's what he did, guys. It was like late 90s, early 2000s. He did software solutions for Windows 3.9.11. Do any of you even know what that is? You know. You probably remember this. You probably too, right? Guys, you need to understand. This is my childhood. Do you remember this? This brings tears to my eyes. Guys, this is like the first Windows, just so you understand. Like all the basics are here, like control panel, mouse, Windows, notepad, like paintbrush. All that stuff existed in the early 90s. This was revolutionary. Depends if you ask, Steve Jobs' people or Bill Gates' people. Never mind. Windows 3.9.11. So he built software for Windows 3.9.11 when it started to hit homes and businesses. Okay, sold his business at the age of 31. Why? You built a good business. That's what you wanted. You showed Pharaoh or whatever. Why? Because at the end of the day, you have clients, and if you don't really like your clients, you won't like serving them for long. If it's about you and not about your customers, it's not going to work. If you're using them for you to be happy or successful, that's not going to work. You need to make them happy and successful. And he didn't like serving his customers, building software solutions for them. These were the happy .com days, late 90s, early 2000s, when internet was really, exploding on Wall Street. So he raised $3 million for his second startup, pre-launch, based on a presentation. Good luck doing that today. Okay? The year is 2001. The bubble bursts. Like, you guys remember that. So it was the first economic crash of the internet on Wall Street. There were a lot of .com businesses. A lot of them fell down. So we were young back then, but maybe you read about it. It's a big part in the history of the internet. The .com bubble bursts. So a lot of businesses are going down. His product was a browser add-on. Remember when browsers started and you had those add-ons, those bars with more buttons? That's how Chrome started. Remember? So he had something that had to do with that, browser add-ons. And he was just about to launch when this bubble burst, and he fails dramatically. So he has his big first failure at 34 years old, which is my age today, and he's married +2 like me. Not a good time to fail, to flunk a business. That's the time where you want things stable in your life. So it hurts. Okay, so what do? Joins Amdocs, which is another big tech employer in Israel. It's a billing software company, and international today. So he moves to Silicon Valley after joining Amdocs. And in Silicon Valley, he starts advising and supporting entrepreneurs because it's how the ecosystem works. So it's part of what you do. We're talking about someone who has technical, product, and sales experience. Okay? He was corporate entrepreneur and started investing a little bit as a small-time angel when he's in Silicon Valley. So he knew the desert of the world of technology. Okay. He succeeded and failed, so he tasted both ends. He understands what true networking is, and that's when the idea of Silo first comes in 2013. But it's not what I just showed you. Do you know what a pivot is? Great. So we did not start with what we do today. It fell down. Okay. This is Silo version 1.0. Never mind what's written here. This is an actual slide from a pitch deck in 2013. Try coming to a meeting with investors with something like this today. Like italic font or whatever. Just never mind. I do a lot of pitch decks, so. What does this mean? Moshik's first idea was, we're going to help investors and entrepreneurs better work together. How? We're going to help founders report to their investors in an easy, fast, and effective way, and also help our investors monitor their investments in an easy and effective way. Let's build a reporting system that is easy and saves time for both sides, right? When you invest in startups, you want to know what's going on with your investments. So they started, 2 co-founders, Moshik and Eran left. They started with market research. They did a lot of interviews, started building mock-ups. They had a business plan. Lean startup, it's 2013. Everybody goes lean startup. Do you know what lean startup is? Cool. We're bootstrapping for 8 months. I was not part of the company back then. We're bootstrapping for 8 months. We have a first version on air after 6 more months. And the investors loved it. Finally. A system where we can get reportings from our investments in an easy and effective way. Finally. Thank you, Silo. So they brought their other investor friends. Hey, you should check this out. This is really cool. Looking good, right? But who didn't come? The startups. Founders refused to adopt it. But we interviewed people, and like, what happened? So angel investors refused to enforce it. What do you mean? You invested in a company, you can ask them to report to you through that platform. Like, you kind of set like how it's going to work. And the founders refused to adopt it. And then Moshik realized it's not that investors are asking what's happening with my startups. Investors are asking, who needs my help? Who needs what? Okay, so what's the problem here? So we understand that investors will not bring the founders. We need the founders to bring their investors. But what do founders want? Well, we need to go and ask them. Not how would they like to use a reporting system, but what do they really need? And investors, they want to know what you need, so why aren't you telling them what you need? So it's like an egg and chicken problem. So far, so good? Okay, cool. Let's understand where we are right now. Let's break the fourth wall and look from above at this story. We're 1 year of work already done. No revenues, no pay, right? We were about to go fundraise for our startup. We're not going to fundraise if we only brought the investors and not the founders. Nobody will invest in this right now. We need to pivot, which is more time and work. And we need to understand what to pivot to, which is more time and work. So what do? I'll tell you what more than 90% of startups do. They close shop. And that's what happens. Here's what Moshik said. We have a team of 4 people. Let's understand his situation. I have a team of 4 people. I'm not 24 and not 34 anymore. What do I tell them? I'm the leader here. It's all on my shoulders. I'm 47 years old. That's no joke. So what keeps you going as a leader, as a founder, when you're over there? Most startups get there. There's a reason they call it the valley of death, in between pre-seed, seed, first round, and on. I hope I didn't speak Chinese now. Okay, good. So that's where leadership kicks in. Here's what he did. He said, okay, we put so much work in this for over a year. This doesn't work, but we already worked on this so much. So we can quit, or we can continue, but I don't want to continue for good. I don't want to smooth this around. I'm setting the timer on. I'm giving this 2 more months, and if it doesn't work, I'm shooting the horse myself. But this time, we better make it right. We need to listen. We need to go back to the market and do it the right way. And let's go talk to founders, not about what we want to build for them, but about what are their needs, without us. Okay, so here's what happens. We are asking founders, what needs to happen so that you will update your investors? Just to start the conversation. And they say, we don't want to update, we need help. Wait a minute. They told us they want to know who needs help when. So what's going on here? Well, it's not that our angel investors don't want to help us. It's that, and when you really dig it up, it's that we don't want to ask them. Why? Well, we don't want to be seen weak. You may take this like insecurity or something, but it's way deeper than that. When you're an angel investor, when you're a VC for sure, but also an angel investor in our case, let's say you invest in 10 startups. By the way, you really need to understand investors because most of you will try to pitch them. They are your customers in a way. You're selling them shares. You need to know how they think, how they work. Let's say we are investors and we have a VC and we invest in 10 startups, okay? We know that statistically, 9 out of those 10 are going to be total lost, right? Nothing will come out of it. The money's gone. We need 1 out of the 10 to work and have so much substantial ROI that it'll drive our fund and make us, ROI positive so we could fundraise for the next fund. So once we chose our 10, which we believe are all winners, we need to understand who is that 1 out of a 10. And then we only talk to them. We don't answer emails of the other 9, right? We'll see what we do with them later, but we need to make that 1 work. That's our business model. If we have 2 that work, maybe we'll talk to 2. Sometimes we have someone who can work and someone that will work, and we'll talk to that one and screw the other one and the other 8. That's just their business. They're not bad people. It's just a business. So we don't want, when we are asking for help, we're signaling to the investors that we're not that one. So we don't want to ask. By the way, we do want to ask other founders. There's a lot of stuff that we don't talk about with this lonely journey. We can help each other, but this is not for social media. If you solve us this need, this is unique and valuable for us. You can diminish the pain for us. We need an easy way to ask for help and an easy way to get help from others. And that's when you get the aha moment. Because you start with your customers or your consumers, not with what you want to build. Why only founders? This is true for all professionals. Lawyers want to talk to lawyers, right? In the tech business, this is true for founders, this is true for entrepreneurs, this is true for investors, CEOs, this is true for graphic designers, for product people. This is true for every pillar under this umbrella of the industry. They want to talk to their professional peers. They want to talk to other people in their geographic location. They want to talk to other people in the similar industry, right? So there are a lot of dimensions here. Designers, engineers, lawyers, these are all also talents. So it's also for HR people. And that's when the idea for the business model came in. We could separate the consumers from the customers. And this is an important thing to understand. So I will devote 1 minute for that because it adds more value, I believe, to your future. Let's pretend right now that we are employers and we need to hire someone, an engineer, a product manager, or whatever, a biz dev person, and we're left with 2 candidates. Let's say there's Joe and there's Michelle, okay? Joe is a rock star developer or biz dev guy or salesman or whatever. He's a rock star. Problem is, he knows it. He's a douchebag. He will not be a team player, but he delivers, okay? And then we have Michelle. Michelle is 80% Joe. In the other 20%, what she does, she's involved in all these online forums and communities and Facebook groups or LinkedIn groups or Silo groups or whatever, and she's helping others that are like her. So she invests a lot of time in being immersed in her professional community. Who would you hire and why? Anybody go for Joe? Why Michelle? So beyond Kumbaya, why do we want Michelle?
I would rather her company than compared to the guy.
Yeah, but that's still Kumbaya. If you're a business manager, let's say you're super cynical, there's a reason to take Michelle. All you're saying is right, the company culture is super important. But even if you're cynical, there's a reason to take Michelle.
Odds are she knows one person or more than one person who can provide you more value than just Joe can by himself.
What happens to Joe when he faces a wall? He'll try to figure it out by his own, because he's a Neo. What will Michelle do? Because she's a Morpheus. And she helped other people become Neos, so they will want to help her in return. So when we buy Michelle, we get 80% of Joe, but we get a whole lot more of potential value from the people that she knows that are brain power that could help us. So yes, she goes and helps other people. That's a loss of time. 20% of her time in the office, okay. She could actually help other people that work for our competition. But when we will need that help, she will know to get it in return. Okay? So there's a reason to take Michelle. So that's why it's for HR people too, because when you build yourself as a talent in these environments, people approach you with opportunities. So we are rebuilding Silo as an MVP. You know what MVP is, right? Minimum viable product, of course. And now it's open for everyone in separate communities under the tech umbrella. So we want to build a product for the tech community. So in separate communities, we're going to have a community for CEOs. We're going to have a community for people who do finance for startups. We're going to have a community for investors. We're going to have a community for graphic designers. We're going to have a community for people in Silicon Valley or in New York or in Florida or in other places and so on and so forth. So founders and investors, what we started with is only one kind of a community, right? Here's a place where founders and investors can talk to one another. But they want to talk to themselves, they want to talk to themselves, and want to talk with others, so you got the point. So it's professionals who are doing biz dev and networking. That's what it's all about. Tactical, lean, thin, and focused. It's not supposed to replace LinkedIn, it's supposed to complement LinkedIn. LinkedIn is great, it's the town square. But you need the pub to go more intimate. You won't sit for a date in the public square. That's the idea. So it's effective. And then suddenly, good things start to happen. So first fundraising of 600K, fast user acquisition after launch. The way it was worked, there are a lot of Israelis who sit in Silicon Valley. That's the community that Moshik was immersed in, and a lot of them are in tech. So it started to grow over there. They brought their Israeli friends, especially the ones that do global biz dev and everything that is globally based from Israel. So they brought their Indian and Chinese and American friends, and that's how we started expanding to where we are today. Second fundraising along the way of another 700K. Initial revenues from talent acquisition, which is the business model I told you about. Okay, we're good with times. I want to get to the punchline. So I told you who I am, I told you who we are, I told you our story. Here are the lessons. None of them are unique to us. I won't testify for Moshik. I was a CEO for a startup. I was a non-founder CEO, an external CEO for a company that two angels started. Super unique story, but never mind for now. If only I knew those lessons when I took that opportunity. Because I brought my company to initial revenues, but we had to shut down for strategic reasons. So we won the battle and lost the war. So big lessons. Number one, you have to fall in love with your problem, not your solution. Anybody has a guess Who's signed up for that sentence? You should, because I told you yesterday. So Uri Levin is one of the co-founders of Waze. You all know Waze, right? It's a known Israeli startup. It's a Cinderella story because it was sold to Google for more than $1 billion. Never mind. He's known for saying when they sold to Waze, they took my baby away from me. He was against the exit. So he's also known for this sentence. You have to fall in love with your problem. Your solution doesn't matter. It may change. It's not about your solution. It's about the problem. It comes back to that why we talked about in the beginning. You need to find a problem that you're in love with, that you're obsessed with, and that you want to be dealing with for more than a year or two. It's not the problem on top of which you'll build your business. It's the problem you want to help solve. And if you get a salary and you go to work somewhere to solve it, maybe you'll take that opportunity. It's that deep. So that's number one. It's the opposite, by the way, from if you build it, they will come. You need to be obsessed with the problem. When you find that problem, you understand it's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And a lot of startups, I work with many startups, especially in early stages, because I help them do storytelling and pitch and biz dev, they think it's a sprint. They feel it's a sprint. I felt it when I was a CEO of a young startup, because you're in a sprint for the next leap. You want to close that investor. You want to win that startup competition. You want to sell that first pilot. But it's a marathon. So you need a lot of patience and persistence and also to be agile. When you focus on the problem, or the why, you can allow for the what and the how to change. So you can be agile. You can change and change fast. KYC stands for Know Your Customers. It's the desert you need to know. If you want to start a business and you really want to build that business, go and work for some of your customers for 2 years. Learn them from the other side. So you need to be very humble and respect the market. The market will decide your what and how, not you. You decide the why. So you need to adapt to that. Here's some more concrete stuff. Fundraising is not success. Anybody knows who is known for saying that? Do you know Guy Kawasaki? Great. He has only 1 billion videos on YouTube, but in some of them, I can find out the one and share it with you. There's one where he says, fundraising is not success. Sales fixes everything. When you have sales, you can get fundraising. But fundraising will not necessarily drive sales. So conceptually speaking, if you have to choose, maybe you don't have to choose, but if you have to choose between fundraising $500K or closing a pilot for $50K with a customer, go for the $50K, because you can fundraise the $500,000 later if that pilot with a customer was successful. But if you fundraise those $500K and you lost that pilot, what do you do now? Because you sold a promise to your investors. So focus on sales. In our case, we had to separate the customers from the consumers. And we care about our consumers. That's why we built a separate brand for them, the customers, sorry. Separate brand. We help them get talents. We use Silo, but if someone comes to us and it's not related to Silo, we'll help them either way. It's a different entry to the building with another value prop, another program, another product, another pain we're diminishing to them. You need to ask who would be willing to pay you and for what. Because you focus on your why. So you ask yourself, who do I want to serve and what is the pain that I want to diminish to them? That's for the marathon. But in addition, who is willing to pay me and for what? So it's an extreme, it's 100 degrees to the other side, but that's how you start finding your customers. And you can build that value prop for your consumers and serve your customers, and it will collide in the end, or sometimes it doesn't collide, but this is the oxygen or the fuel that keeps you going for the marathon. Does this make sense? Great. So differentiate customers from consumers. You don't always have to do it, but in many, many businesses, especially with startups, especially that are online-based products, that's the way it works. So make sure you diminish the pain for both sides. I ran a startup, and we were focusing on diminishing the pain only for our consumers. We didn't really check that we diminished the pain for the customers. So we won short but lost long. You have to diminish the pain for both, separately and then together. Most things are not in your control, so don't waste time worrying about them. There are a lot of tech speakers who talk about that online. You don't know what Google's going to do with the algorithm next year. So don't waste time preparing strategies for it. You can check what's going on with your POC and make sure that works for the next month. So focus on what you control. So that's another lesson. Startups are super hard. Most of them fail. You're basically, once you go to war, you're pushing against the universe, and the universe is pushing back. If you're not fine-tuned with what you want to do for the long term, you won't be able to communicate that. If you won't be able to communicate that, you want to attract the right partners, customers, investors, team members, founders. So it's the only way you can push back. You have to be willing to eat a lot of shit, a lot. And you have to focus on your why, as I said, and not in the what and the how. So that's what I started with. You have to focus on our why and allow the what and the how to change. And when you do, that's where innovation comes from. So, aside of the communities we have, there's one for Florida Tech Hub. So you're most invited to come and check it out. The way to get there is literally, you can go online, you can download the app for your mobile, or you can just go from your browser and hit that link. It'll directly take you there. Like most platforms, you can sign up with Google, Facebook, LinkedIn, whatever. It just takes you in. There are a lot of opportunities over there. That's what I'm supposed to say. But what I will add now is you could be smart, and you could go to other communities too. You could go to other communities that are related to other geographical areas you may be moving to. You can jump in and say, hi, I'm blah, 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 and I'm moving in town, and I'm, whatever, and offer your value. Not ask, but, give first. You could join other groups if you're if you're interested in graphic design or product or, I don't know, biz dev in the US or global or in a certain area, and join other communities. You can't join the CEO's group unless you are launching a startup and you're a CEO. These are places where, it's really going down. So checking out those communities is a way to get to a lot of opportunities. So there's that. We did it. So 4:15. So we have like 15 minutes to Q&A. I'll be happy to take any questions. Yes?
So my question is, how did you project, initially starting an online company like this, with an app and stuff like this, how did you project your initial market of both your consumers and customers? Because it's very, at least in my experience, it's very difficult to project something like that just to start. And then how did you project it would grow over time, like numerically wise? Because that's, your profits are coming from that. So how do you know that people are going to respond to something?
You don't. And if you're referring to online businesses, I would say that the entire internet sector is not startup anymore. Like, you don't fundraise today to start an e-commerce website. It's not startup. It's a lot of entrepreneurship, but it doesn't behave like startups. It behaves like general SMBs. So my office is a WeWork in Israel. So, most of the people around, they don't fundraise for their startup because you're not selling the idea to develop a technology. What you do is you need to build a business fast and live off of sales. So, we're an example that is on the edge because we're internet, but we're still a startup. Many internet companies today are not, like, they're startups, but they're not professionally, in terms of the definition, they're not startups because they don't fundraise, develop something, go for another round, develop something, then go to the market, and then have another round, B or C, and then go IPO or whatever. They live off of customers. E-commerce used to be startups. Today, it's like, if you want to start e-commerce, go sell. So if you're doing something in the internet sector, you need to think more like a shop or a restaurant. It's that kind of entrepreneurship thinking, less like startups, I would say. But I will tell you this, if you have a little bit of sales that you can show at work, you have an ability to fundraise. Right.
I feel like the need for fundraising isn't quite as much as it would be for I don't know, any sort of like manufacturing.
Yeah, so it used to be like that in the past. The reason it's not anymore is because to start an online business today, it almost doesn't cost any money to try, because you don't need to buy physical service anymore, right? You don't need to buy advertisement. I mean, you can, but you could go social media. It's super hard, it's super saturated, but you can try for free. So from an investor point of view, there's a reason why VCs stopped investing in a lot of internet businesses, and they now focus on cyber or AI. They focus on the fields where their money is really valuable for the startups. When you're an internet business, you don't need $5 million to start a business. You may need 50K, but that's not for a VC. So you will have people who will invest those 50Ks. So what I'm trying to say is this: if you have an online business and you need fundraising, instead of going and talking to professional investors, go to talk to people who did that industry for a while, were successful, and they are not professional investors, they're not angel investors, they're just veterans of the industry. Let me give you an example. Let's say you're doing an online business that has something to do with restaurants. Your investors are not tech investors, your investors are successful restaurant owners. If you're doing a business that is related to, I don't know, hotels, you need to go to the big hotel owner, right, who built his business based off hotel. He knows your customers. That's the way to understand it. So I hope it answers your question. But because the internet is what it is today, it's not in the early days anymore, you don't need big capital to start online businesses. Right. If you're a Facebook, fine. Most online businesses are not a Facebook. Yeah. They can't be. So you need to be market-focused, customer-focused, and consumer-focused. And then the investors will, like the cliche is, when you do that, the investors find you. But your investors may not be tech investors, and that's totally fine. It's that restaurant owner that sees the opportunity in your restaurant online SaaS, blah, 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 whatever, right? Because he understands how this is unique and valuable. He knows how to sell it. So, if you want to give me more context, I'll be happy to, but that's the general advice I would give. Internet is not a sector anymore. It's, horizontal. It crosses everything. Yes?
A couple questions just of clarification. Is Silo's office in Silicon Valley, or is it in Israel, or do you guys have multiple offices?
Great questions. A lot of startups today are virtual. Like the office is in Silicon Valley, Israel, and on Slack. By the way, our developer was in Israel. He moved to Paris. I had a team in Israel, but we shut it down because we had to go product for a few months. Now we're starting a new business cycle with our app. So, I may grow the team again. It's on demand. So I'm not supposed to pitch my keynote in 3 hours, but my keynote is exactly about that, not only from the startup perspective, but startups also adjust to the new world of work. There's no reason to keep a lot of people in a WeWork office because we're paying rent and it's the investor's money, and they don't want that money burned on rate. So if we can go slim and be agile and it's online, it's online. So, a lot of people who are part of startups today are freelancers. Look at me, I have a business, right? I'm a part of Silo. I'm Silo 100%. But I don't receive a salary from Silo. I send an invoice, and I'm not only working with Silo, right? Like, no conflict of interest, of course. I will not go and work for the competition, but I'm doing other things. So that's the way it is with a lot of startups. It's just how the world of work changes.
When you sell a product, what's the difference between a consumer and a customer?
In our case, for example, we go to employers and we tell them, listen, we can really help you save time, energy, and money, and find you talents. Here's how it works. I don't know, were you here when I explained how Kernel works and with the talent agency part of our business? Great, so here's how it works. So imagine that, imagine Google, they have someone and they think about laying that person off, but they're not doing so yet. But the head of the department is smart. He's not going to make a move until he has the next opportunity up in line. So what will that person do? He will go and look for talent. Now, imagine he actually finds Michelle. Michelle still works for Microsoft. She didn't quit. She wants to quit. She didn't do anything yet, but she's looking for the next thing. So she's not looking for her next opportunity on LinkedIn, on her tagline, and he didn't go to HR and said, listen, we want to fire Joe and open this position, so post an opening position for Google. So you see nothing of this. The market doesn't know anything. It's behind the scenes. But he was, connected to Michelle in a certain way, let's assume, and he met with Michelle, and Michelle told him, listen, what you're doing in your department is super interesting. For that project, I may leave Microsoft for that. Like, she's selling him, he doesn't know she wants to quit. I will be willing to quit and, leave my comfort zone because I'm all in for this. Cool. So he'll know that. He'll go to HR. Nothing is out yet. He'll go to HR. Listen, remember I told you about Joe and what we said we'll take a decision for the next quarter? So I think I already have the next person. Can you meet Michelle? So now the HR manager meets Michelle, and they talk to her. They give her an offer. She says, yeah, but no, but blah, blah, blah. So they do a little bit of the, negotiations. And then she says yes. She didn't quit yet. They didn't fire anyone yet. But now she said yes. So for the next month, here's what's going to happen. She is going to give her notice, right? Because she also already has the B plan, right? They're going to let Joe know, because they know they have her. But because of compliance and the way it works, they have to publish that position. So you're all going to see an open position for Google for this or that role, and they'll receive 40,000 emails with CVs from bots of HR companies in 24 hours, but none of that matters. They're not going to look at it because they're already closed with Michelle. We help that person get to Michelle in the behind the scenes. That's what we do. So the way it works is we represent talents. We come to those companies and say, we don't know any of your needs, but we have someone you really want to be looking for because they're a great AI engineer, and if you have any projects, blah, blah, blah. And we sell the talent. Not necessarily when they say they need to hire the talent. And in many cases, that talent opportunity will produce the position. So that's how it works in Hollywood. That's how it has been working for years. So what Moshik, the aha moment was, why not do it for tech companies that are around me and that I work with? So that's the idea. Does that answer your question?
No.
Okay, so help me.
So you're selling a product. Like, let's say I own a store and I sell shoes.
Okay.
What's the difference between a consumer and a customer?
In that example, the consumer is the customer.
Okay.
But when you're selling toys to kids, who's the customer and who's the consumer?
The kid
Is the,
consumer.
but who's the customer?
Parents, because the kid.
So the safety matters? Of course, but not to the consumer. It matters to the customer because she wants to buy safe toys to her kids. So you need to communicate with the decision maker because they pay for it. You need to make the kid want it and the mother agree to buy it. Different messaging, you put different toys in different aisles, it's just different. Okay? So here's a relatively simple example where the consumer is not the customer. In online businesses, because of the way the internet works, you get a lot of stuff for free. You get Gmail for free. You surf the internet for free. You get Facebook for free, right? You get LinkedIn for free, up to a certain point, right? So there are models where you could get what you want for free, and they will make money from other customers. But if you gave the shoe example, so maybe the toy example will help you understand that a little bit better. Yeah. In our case, big employers in Silicon Valley are the customers right now. Our consumers are people who use our platform. Some of them work for those companies. It could be the same person in a certain incident. But we care about the consumers for the long term. We're able to do so and not chase investors all day long because we have that business model that helps our customers. But it's two different visions, missions. Like, this is for the long term. This is something that really works for us. And may continue in the future to its own thing. But it gives us the oxygen to keep building our product and building our business and not just chase investors, which is what a lot of startups end up doing. More questions? Yes?
So it's not completely related to investors or directly startups, but you mentioned a few different books throughout your presentation. It's like Give and Take by Grant, as you kind of alluded
Okay.
to. Why. Do you have any other book recommendations for aspiring entrepreneurs?
Yeah, about quite a few. So I'll tell you this, specifically books or generally like?
In general, too.
I would tell you go to YouTube and start consuming like a lot of important videos. Like before I read a book, I watch the YouTube videos about that book, especially if there's an audio version. But that's only me. So I will tell you this. Okay, so reading recommendations. Let's see. Give and Take by Adam Grant, the great book. If specifically you're interested in startups, then Guy Kawasaki is a great speaker. He's super funny, but he also has a lot of important points. So I would watch some of his videos. He talks a lot about innovation and how Silicon Valley really works. So there's that. I'm a big fan of Gary Vaynerchuk because he talks about entrepreneurship in its core way, not necessarily tech. He's also in tech, but this is for people who want to build their own business, whether that's a shop or their online brand or a startup or whatever it is. So I'm a big believer in the messages that he promotes. He's extreme, but still, you know, if you take his messaging, this is super important. Simon Sinek, Start With Why, is a must. Let's see, who else? You're more invited to come to my keynote at 7. I talk about the new world of work and how entrepreneurship personally for each and every one of your careers is something that is much more important than just startups. And it's something that is also relevant to anybody out there. So I believe that entrepreneurship, the way I see it, it got connected with building companies and startups, especially in the last decade, because startup culture exploded. And it's, you know, very cool. It's still very cool today to go and open your own startup. It wasn't cool in the 1990s to quit big corporate and start a small company. You know what was cool? Wall Street. Funny, right? But that's what people will say about startups in 20 years. So when you look beyond the trends, entrepreneurship, because of the internet, is here to stay. But it's going to impact graphic designers, people who study history, artists. It's going to impact, I don't know, researchers. It's going to impact engineers. It's going to impact business people, marketers. It's going to impact everybody. So thinking like an entrepreneur is an imperative issue. There's a big talk about the gig economy and the on-demand economy and what it's really going to do in the next 30 years to all of us. So there's a lot of content about that. So I would look at that too. I believe that centers like these will teach how to freelance, maybe even a mandatory course for any undergrad student across campus. It will be a course that will come from this center in the first year, just because you need the basics to understand how you build yourself up in a world where you change your jobs every 2 years. And you may be an entrepreneur for a few years and may go to work for corporate and may do a little bit of both in the meantime. But the only constant thing will be that change. It's another reason why you should know your why for yourself. And your why may not be the startup's why. But if you know your personal why, changing jobs every 2 years is just the rules of the game. But you'll be able to build a career path out of it. Otherwise, you're just lost in limbo. And you look for an employer that will help you, I don't know, reach self-fulfillment and help you figure out who you are, but it doesn't exist. Today, it's on us. So we have to think like businesses for ourselves. That's what my keynote is about. And there's a lot of content about it online. Guys, thank you very, very much. I appreciate you coming. I hope it was meaningful and interesting and relevant.
A little gift.
Thank you so much.
This is our little paperweight of the building, the front of the building.
Thank you, I love it.
The Moran building, and thank you so very much. It was fabulous.
Thank you.
Really great.
Love meeting you guys. If you want to reach